Today, I'm going to summarize a book called Unlimited Memory. After you watch this video, you will know how to remember things for exams or for regular classes, how to memorize new words in a foreign language and never forget them, how to memorize difficult terms, dates, names, and many other things. The great thing about this book is that its methods can be applied to a wide range of things. You can see this video as a tool that helps you to learn how to learn. The author of the book, Kevin, says he thought he had no future because when he was a child, writing and reading were torture, and he had a lot of trouble concentrating and remembering the things he learned. But fast forward more than 15 years, he broke a world record. He memorized 10,000 digits of pi and was able to give them in any order when elicited, 14 minutes faster than the previous recordist. I'll repeat that. He memorized 10,000 random digits. So how could the author go from being a kid who people thought wouldn't graduate to being a memory master, a voracious reader, and an author who teaches other people to learn things? Kevin says this happened because he learned an important lesson. Memory is a skill, not a special gift. Let me repeat that. Memory is a skill. That means you can stop saying things such as, I'm bad with names, or I'm bad at memorizing things. You aren't. You just never learned the skill. You can also stop saying things like, oh, that person is good at memorizing things because he has a photographic memory. Photographic memory is a myth. People who claim to have a photographic memory are actually using the same methods we'll talk about in this video, even if they're doing that unconsciously. What you have to do in each of the methods we'll talk about is to bring information to life. I'm sure you've experienced this before. You're reading something, and only when you reach the bottom of the page, you realize you have no idea what you just read. This happens because you never brought the information to life. If you're reading a story and you can see it as if it were a movie in your mind, you'll still remember what you've read 5 or 50 pages ahead. You've used your creativity and your imagination, so you don't need to make a huge effort to remember. So that's what you need to do to remember things, be it a page of a textbook or your shopping list. Bring that information to life. Here's how to do that. First, you have to sense it. Use all of your senses to think of that information. For example, if you want to remember an orange, use all your senses to experience an orange. Think of the vibrant color, the sweet but sour taste, the smell, etc. The second thing you need to do is to exaggerate it. It's easier to remember a giant talking orange than to remember an ordinary one. Think of something illogical. Funny and ridiculous things are easier to remember. Finally, energize it. Now give this orange some action. Isn't a movie more memorable than a slide presentation? If the orange is still, it won't be as easy to remember it as it would be if the orange suddenly started to walk and talk. What I mean is, make the images in your mind more vivid and interesting. You can use these principles to remember basically anything. And all the techniques we'll learn here are based on these 3 principles that we just mentioned: sensing, exaggerating, and energizing. Here's another example. Think of a foreign word. Let's suppose you're trying to learn how to speak Portuguese, and you found out that father in Portuguese is pai. Does pai sound like any word in English? The easiest one you can think of is pie. So if you can think of your father eating a very big piece of pie, try to make that image funny and energized, and you'll never forget it. Creating and connecting is nothing new. This is how your memory works all the time, actually. It connects the things you don't know with the things you know so they start to make sense to you. What you're doing here is nothing unnatural. You're just enhancing your nature. Now we'll see a few methods that you can use to put those ideas into practice. Method number 1. Use your car to remember. Think of your car. Now imagine you're squeezing a big apple into the front license plate, then stabbing a carrot into the hood. Now open the door and sit in the driver's seat. Oops, you didn't notice you were sitting on strawberries. What a mess. When you look at the passenger seat, there's a person that you don't like sitting there, so you start throwing eggs at him or her. Feeling irritated, you get out of your car, and that's when you notice a huge orange on your roof. Wait, what is this smell? It's coming from the trunk. You open the trunk and it's full of fish. There's also broccoli in the tailpipe. and the tires are made out of sweet potatoes. Go through your car, beginning to end, and see if you can remember all the vegetables and fruit. Remember, you have to sense, exaggerate, and energize. Watch this part of the video again if you need to. By the way, you've just memorized the names of 8 superfoods that keep your mind efficient. Make sure to add them to your diet. What you just did was organize what otherwise seemed like random information so that your mind finds connections between them. You can use this technique to remember anything, from your shopping list to the countries of South America. It works well with lists, but also with presentations. For example, when you're making a PowerPoint presentation, instead of having to look at the slides or fill it with long pieces of text so that you remember what you have to say and in which order, you can summarize the content in topics and associate each topic with an image. You can associate the topic budget with a wallet, for example, and picture yourself opening your trunk and finding your wallet there. By having an image for each topic and placing them in the mental image of your car, you'll remember the topics easily. We'll talk more about the images later. You can also replace the car with whatever you think helps you, like other means of transportation. The bus you take to go to work, for example, or the stores you see on your way to the bakery. You can even use your body and imagine things happening, for example, on your feet, then your knees, then your chest, your hands, your head, etc. If you need to remember the words attitude, priorities, and health, for example, you can use a room in your house and picture yourself on a journey through the room or through the entire house. Imagine someone with a bad attitude jumping on your kitchen table. Now, see yourself writing a list of your priorities on the refrigerator door. Finally, a person that looks very healthy and muscular is preparing a salad near your stove. Attitude, priorities, and health. You've just memorized the 3 first keys you need to pay attention to if you want to be more successful in your life, according to author John Maxwell. The more creative you are when you create your imagery, the easier it'll be to remember. Method 2, pegging. Pegging is a simple and effective method based on association with shapes and rhymes. I get amazed at how easy our brain finds it to remember things when they rhyme. Think of popular sayings such as, "See you later, alligator," or "Fake it till you make it." Song lyrics are also easier to remember when they rhyme. How can you use it to your advantage then? You choose a word that rhymes with a number. For example, the number 2 in English rhymes with the word shoe. So if you need to remember your Netflix password and it has a 2 in it, you can associate Netflix and shoe. For example, picture Netflix's logo wearing a shoe. Another way you can use this technique is when you need to remember something in order. The second item on your list will be wearing shoes. The same goes for quantities. Do you need 2 eggs for the cake recipe? Imagine yourself putting on your shoes and inadvertently breaking an egg someone had placed inside your shoe to play a trick on you. Feel the slickness, smell the eggs. You won't forget that mental image. Another pegging method is the shape method, and it works the same way, but instead of finding a word that rhymes with 2, you can find an image that has the same shape as the number 2. For example, a duck or a swan. You can use the shape method to remember other things instead of numbers. For example, the alphabet. Let's suppose you generated a random email password and it's 2 capital O, capital S, small b, 7, small h. It's difficult to remember, isn't it? But let's associate those letters and numbers with shapes. 2 has the shape of a swan. The letter O has the shape of a circle, so it could be a round fruit, like an apple. Let's think of letter B as a boot and letter S as a snake. Now, number 7 could resemble an alligator, and letter H maybe looks like a small horse. So to remember 2 capital O, you could think of a bird pecking a big apple. Then to remember capital S small b, think of a big snake coming out of a small boot. Finally, think of an alligator trying to eat a small horse, and you have 7 small h. There you have your password. 2 capital O, capital S, small b, 7 small h. Now, these are the shapes I associate with these numbers and letters, but you can make your own associations, of course. Just make it easy for yourself. Method number 3, how to remember names. Let's suppose your 6-year-old son invited 7 of his friends to his birthday party, and now you feel you need to memorize their names quickly so you can take care of all of those children. Their parents are there too, so that makes 14 names you need to memorize, and fast, before you embarrass yourself. Have you noticed how easy it is to remember people who have the same name as you do? I'm sure you remember most of the people you met in your life who had the same or a similar name to yours. That's because that specific name has a meaning to you. So, can you associate the kids' names with names that have a meaning to you? Yourself, your family or friends, movie characters, celebrities. Thomas becomes Tom Hanks, and Angie is Angelina Jolie. You can even try to make up a small story where each of them acts as a celebrity that has a similar name to theirs. And then you can picture them acting that story as if it were a movie or a play. Here are other tips to remember names. First, when you meet someone, really think about his or her name. Do you like it? Does it match the person's appearance and personality? Second, hear their name and what they're saying attentively. Don't focus on being interesting, just be curious about that person you're meeting. Third, compare that person with someone else you know who has the same name. You'll be thinking something like, this woman has the same name as my aunt, but my aunt is much shorter, and this person has longer hair. By doing this, you're associating the new information with information you already have in your long-term memory, your aunt's name and her physical features. Finally, associate the name with a mental image. Images are easier to remember than names. For example, if her name is Alice, you can imagine the lady carrying a white rabbit wherever she goes. Method number 4, linking thoughts and stories. Another method you can use is to create a small story that helps you memorize the information you need. I've mentioned it as a possibility to help you remember names, but here's a detailed explanation of how to do it. First, condense all the information you need into a list of keywords. Have a keyword for each information topic you need to remember. Now, convert that list into meaningful link stories. For example, let's remember the memorization systems I've mentioned so far: car and places method, pegging method, names method, and linking thoughts and story method. So, to remember all of them, I've created a small story, and it went something like this. I got into my car method, but realized I'd forgotten the keys in my house, places method. So I went through the rooms looking for it. That's when I saw my 2 cats saying rhymes, pegging method, to each other in my living room. One of them saw me and shouted my name in shock, names method, because I'd found their secret. Caught in the act, my cats started to tell me the story, linking story method, of how they learned how to rhyme. Remember, the more illogical the story is, the easier it will be to remember it. As you tell yourself the story, don't forget to apply the 3 fundamentals that we mentioned at the beginning, which were sense it, exaggerate it, and energize it. Method number 5, numbers. Now, the method the author suggests we use to remember numbers is easier to do than to explain, but I'm going to do my best to make it simple. The basic idea is that you need to associate a number with a letter that has a similar shape to the number. For example, if you rotate the number 3, it looks like the letter M, doesn't it? And if you rotate the number 2, it looks a little bit like the letter N. 2 is the N sound. 3 is the M sound. So you'll associate the number 3 with the letter M. And if you need to remember a number, let's say a telephone number that has the number 3, you can think of a word with M to make it easier. You'll do the same for every consonant. You can ignore all the vowels. Let's see an example. Let's say you've been learning about Marie Curie, the first female scientist to win the Nobel Prize twice, and you need to remember the year she died. So you need to remember the number 1934. Well, the first 2 digits, 19, are not difficult to remember because you know we're talking about recent history. The letter M, as we've seen, is a number 3, and 4 looks a little like the letter R. So let's associate them. So you need a word with these 2 consonant sounds in order, M and R. The name Marie has 2 consonant sounds, M and R. Remember, we always ignore the vowels. So the word Marie, that is her name, could help you remember the number 34. That is a great coincidence, isn't it? But you can use other words to associate with the same number as long as the consonant sounds correspond and are in the same order. When we're talking about a small number, such as 34, it's not so difficult to remember it. But when you have a big number, you can really see the power of this technique. Here's one of the author's examples in the English language. The number 3472-9401-215-721110 could be translated into words in English as American presidential candidates. The author has associated the letter M with number 3, letter R with the number 4, the letter C with number 7, and the letter N with the number 2, and so on. So now you have the word American, which contains 4 consonants M, R, C, and N. Therefore, 4 corresponding numbers 3, 4, 7, 2. The same goes for the rest of the phrase. Obviously, it's easier to remember a small sentence like that one than a random 17-digit number. This is one of the methods the author used to memorize the first 10,000 digits of pi. Keep in mind that the author suggests numbers to associate with specific letters, but you can make your own associations. It needs to make sense to you. You can use this technique to memorize phone numbers, important data, dates, addresses, money values, etc. Have them become words or phrases instead of numbers, and you'll remember them more easily. Method number 6, art diagrams. When you need to recall information, transform it into images, and then turn the images you created into art diagrams that tell a story. You can draw or make collages using images you Google or pictures from magazines. Let's say you've been struggling with a particularly difficult set of information you need to remember. For example, data for a work or school presentation. Choose some of the methods I explained in this video and join the content of your presentation in an image diagram. Print it and stick it to your fridge or your bedroom wall a few days before your presentation. It's very efficient. Here's an example of an art diagram that helps memorize the first 10 elements of the periodic table: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and neon. In this example, it has been associated with names in English. For example, the boar is to remind us of boron, and the car is to remind us of carbon. You get the idea. Now, let's test your memory. Think of the car method. What did you throw at the person sitting on the passenger seat? What were the wheels made of? What about the hood? What did you stab it with? Do you remember all the 8 superfoods that were spread all over your car? Here's the answer: apple, carrot, strawberries, eggs, orange, fish, broccoli, and sweet potatoes. Do you still remember all of them? Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see summaries of other books, check out the playlist on your screen. Have a great day.